Ronnie and Chuck.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what is there to say? I'm disappointed that I have to come on and follow that absolute legendary banger. Tears started coming out of my eyes at some point. And that, you know what? Let's just run it back. Psych. Maybe at the end of the show. Maybe at the end of the show for all of those from Die
It's long.
It's long. But I'll tell you what, it's moody. It's a tone setter. It put me in a headspace that I'm typically not in on another fantasy show. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. As you can tell, I've got the absolute legend himself, Ronaldinho, Sean Ronnie A. Evans, good guy AI. How we doing, Ronnie?
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on again. I really enjoyed going on your other show last year. This guy sucks. And as I put in the note there, I up until like 48 hours ago, I literally thought that was the show I was hopping on. So this is on brand. We're both hilarious. We're both goofballs. Starting.
Yeah, Ronnie's obviously a diehard follower of my content. Clearly knew the name of the show. Clearly knew what to put in, what to get going.
I assumed I was coming back on the same one.
Yeah, well, you know what? Our last show was the most viewed content I've ever put out on anything, and that's saying something because I'm an absolute, I'm a force of nature. I'm a demon. I'm a little ass boy, ladies and gentlemen. And to have the part 2 coming right now, I'm very excited. I want to shout out the chat. I want to shout out my bassinets, my bassholes, my bastards. Destro's in the house. Hope you're doing good, buddy. Good to have you tonight. Jamie's in there. Jamie, always a pleasure. I'm sure more of you guys will roll in. If you guys are new to the channel, or if this is your first time, or if you haven't done what I'm about to ask you to do, I've got 3 things for you, and then we'll get this baby rolling. We'd love for you to hit that like button. We'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. And you know what? Keep the train rolling. Don't close this video. You got something to go do. You got to change the wash. Got to let the dog out. Cops are on the door. Somebody's in trouble. Keep the video rolling. Put it on mute. That watch time is critical for us, critical for me, and critical for you guys. If you guys like all the content, we got to keep it going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see Andrew Cooper in there too. What up, baby?
Andrew Cooper's in the house. You know what he's trying to do. He's just dying. What does he got for us? AI can't even get the show title right. No chance they beat me in fantasy. It's a cocky take. We know that the Northeasterners are very slow to adapt technology. They're not very changing with the times like us in the South, Ronnie. They're not like us. That's what that song was actually referring to. But you know what? The more people that think like that, the easier it's going to be for us to get ahead. So I'm doing a lot of talking right now. We got one thing I have to ask you about, and then we can jump right into some rookies. We're going to do a little quick rookie talk. That'll be fun.
Sure.
Tyreek Hill in trouble in the news today. Tyreek Hill's going down. So my question to you is, does it give you confidence that we're going to get the same old Tyreek, knowing that the offseason is going the same?
Yeah, I actually prefer to see this from Tyreek Hill in the offseason. Like this to me is a good indicator of on-field performance. I also, like, on a serious note, I saw the blurb and like 2 little news blurbs about it, and I haven't looked into it today. So I don't know how serious it is. But what has typically happened over the last 3 to 4 years in the NFL is these little domestic disturbances, like, they don't amount to anything. And whether that is correct or not, I don't know if I have an answer there. But for the NFL, I'm not super worried about this until someone like Drew Davenport comes out and says, like, "Yo, you actually just."
I like that. Yeah, Drew's always got his finger on the pulse. That's a good card there. I like that. It's stability, right? Like if Tyreek was working with some new trainer, or he was in the best shape of his career or something like that, those would be just instant fades. Those are what do they call it? The red flags. I was trying to think of something more creative. So is this something that we want to get AI involved in, where it's like, I need you to put together a web of guys and what they're getting in trouble for, and if that's going to have any impact on their season?
You know, there's like one of my favorite new accounts that's popped up over the last 2 years is the Coach Speak Index. And I think that vertical of like content creation, where you find a particular channel that always is a news source for the NFL and just create a brand out of it, works. So I think this like, you could call it like the domestic disturbance tracker, the DDT for the NFL. And you could throw in some metrics to the AI, tell it how to weight it. The funny thing about AI though is that like it literally is just doing what you tell it to. So if you wanted to go make that, you could do it.
You've got 2 things here that I think are just excellent patents. First of all, the opening banger, which we need to make sure we get produced, remastered, put into some sort of track. And then you just came up with the Coach Speak Index, but for arrests and players and levels. I'm loving all of this. I mean, Coach Speak, Greg over there, he's been on the show a couple of times. He's been one of my favorite new endeavors into the NFL and gambling and everything community. So I love that. I think you're onto something there. Now, let's get to a little bit of rookie chatter here. You came to me with a list of names. I'm never going to jam. Guys, there's a few things in life I'm going to jam down your throat. Rookies is not one of them. So I'll let you not just go first, but dealer's choice here. Tell us about a couple of these rookies that Ronnie Evans is interested in as we roll towards the NFL draft coming up. Pro days are wrapping up, all the good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Before I even start, I want to give a acknowledgement to where a lot of the source of my like information and takes is coming from. I've worked over at Gridiron Ratings with Jeff DiMatteo for over a half decade now.
Shout out, Jeff.
And yeah, Jeff is the man. He coached in college. He knows how to actually scout players from an X and O standpoint. He's been involved in the game itself, and no discredit to anyone that is in the industry that didn't play football or wasn't coaching at a collegiate or NFL level. But I think we all could acknowledge like somebody that fits that bill is going to have a deeper level of insight, no matter how hard we try, because they've been there on the field. They've seen the process. They know how to look for those little intangibles. And Jeff has been just like on the money every year. The thing with Jeff is he does not do any self-promotion at all. Like you would not know anything about Gridiron Ratings if I didn't get on this show and tell you about it.
He's very Ron Swanson in that regard, to where like the last thing he wants to do is take all this great work and have all the acknowledgement. Yeah.
So I've watched some tape. I've done a little bit of my own homework, but I have to fully admit, like I've been leaning on Jeff and a few other people this offseason more than past off seasons. I've been busy with other AI stuff, which we'll talk about in a second. But anyway, so first note, there's a guy that you guys might not have heard of. His name's Ashton Jeanty.
This is huge.
Back from Boise State. Yeah, I don't know if you guys were aware, but he might be pretty good.
Fucking man. Holy shit, I'm gonna come.
Anytime someone wants to talk Jeanty, that's what they're going to get.
So I have an interesting quick take on Ashton Jeanty that I have been struggling with this entire offseason.
You're getting some love for the background here.
It's ludicrous. I picked it for a reason. I have been for months now on the same slant with Ashton Jeanty. He is most definitely probably a generational runner, but that's a different discussion. I don't love the generational tag. He's a generational runner. He's an elite runner. He's elite at just about everything he does, except for route running and pass catching prowess. And it's not that he can't do that. It just wasn't like the main part of his game. And so that's my only just insight on Ginty is that he's really good, but people talk about him like he's better than Saquon Barkley as a prospect, or better than Bijan Robinson as a prospect, or McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is where you hit like the same bar as Ashton Ginty. Jonathan Taylor grades out about 0.3 over Ginty for me.
Nice, yeah.
But my take on Ginty is he's going to be real good. Real good in the NFL. He's going to be able to do everything you want from the guy, except for if you're in a PPR league, what we need for him year one to pay off at ADP is a Saquon Barkley type rookie situation where he is like a top 3 on the pecking order pass catching back. And that doesn't mean you're going to go line him up in the slot like you would with Alvin Kamara, for example. He is not that type of back, or at least he hasn't proven it yet. But if we get a scenario where a team like the Raiders drafts him and they're just dumping the ball off to Ginty, going over the top to Bowers, dumping it off to Ginty, he might finish as a top 3 rookie running back. My take on him, though, is because of his skill set and because of the way the game is played in this modern era, I think there's actually a pretty high risk for Ginty to not pan out for ADP his first year in the league. Yeah. And that's just my take on Ashton Ginty. He's incredible. He's, for me, the 5th best prospect of the last decade at running back. And I wanted to bring him up because the narrative around him is like, it's pretty much he's the best prospect of the last decade. And that's ludicrous. He's not, like, at all. But
he's just the newest.
He's the newest. And thank you. Anyway, I'll be quiet.
No, you're good. And you know what? Like the thing that I think is interesting for a year one player like him, which I agree with you, he's not quite Derrick Henry when it comes to pass catching. He's better than that, but he's definitely not in the league as some of these other guys. And then you look at the draft order, right, to where we don't think he's going top 3. He's probably not going forward to New England. You look at the run blocking. Now, I know there's a draft to come and maybe a few more free agencies here or there, but the run blocking lines for the next 7 to 8 picks are all some of the worst in the league. Anywhere from Jacksonville to Vegas to the Jets to the Panthers to the Saints to the Bears. San Francisco's, they're always going to be good under Shanahan, but they're getting older and they're losing some guys. And then you get into kind of like a Dallas, which could be fun. But the projections are all that this is a top 10 pick. He's a top 5 prospect in the draft overall. So if he's going to go to one of these teams, you just cannot feel great about him for year one. And he's going to be a top 5, 6 redraft pick. You just know he's going to end up coming into the year with a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. And to get that Saquon Barkley season, you'd like to have a quarterback that can at least throw the ball with top half of the league numbers like Eli did, and maybe another weapon like an Odell Beckham. Jacksonville seems to me the only team in here that fits that bill, and I don't know if they're taking him at number 5.
Well, and he would be an amazing pick for Jacksonville because Travis Etienne in the end should be a scat back and a third down back. If he was put in that role, he would be probably the number 1 back in that role in the NFL, but they've been using him as a 3-down back, and that's not really a skill set. Bringing a guy like Ginty, first and second down, mix him up on third down, it'd be great. But yeah, I don't know. Just a final note on Ginty. Like we saw it with Dameon Pierce a few years ago. We see it every couple years. There's a running back.
All the names I thought you could have come up with.
I'm not comparing him to Dameon Pierce. But as an example, a much lesser back in Dameon Pierce was put on a team that didn't really have any best option besides feeding him his rookie year. I think we might see that with Ashton Ginty. The concerns about the offensive line and so forth for whatever teams he goes to don't matter if he's getting 25 touches a game. But I don't think he's going to get that. I don't know. I am a Ashton Ginty lover. I am a Ashton Ginty supporter, but I am like to an extent with things, and some people are going way beyond where I'm comfortable with him, and that's just kind of my take on him.
I get that, and I'm with you. I wonder if the right. My hope for him year one is kind of that rookie year Jonathan Taylor RB6-ish finish overall. 6 to 8 in points per game, something like that. Because he's probably going to get the touches. But I want to lead that into Joe. Shout out, Joe. Good to have you in the chat here. Kind of maybe leads us into our next topic here is the gap between Ginty and the rest of the class isn't as big as perceived, and he is being overdrafted. Now, you can find a hive out there that will maybe not put Omari and Hampton on the same level as Genty, but at least like he's in his own tier ahead of the next guy. Oh, eye roll, leans back in his chair, not having it. So I guess the question is Joe getting on base here, or is he getting walked?
Yeah, well, I'll touch on what Joe's saying in a second. Amari and Hampton, though, talk about him real quick. He's like everyone's RB2 in the class, right? Like everyone seems to love Amari and Hampton until you go look
everyone
at people
but
the people that have been doing this for like 15 to 20 years.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Like Matt Waldman, Matt Waldman has him, I think, at RB10. And like,
it's completely unacceptable for me.
So
RB10.
Here's the thing with Amari and Hampton, right? He is like, I'm not there with him as my RB2. He's not. For me, he's actually my RB4. But he's a physical beast, 220 pounds of like pure downhill punishment, surprising burst for his size. When he gets rolling, it's hard to tackle the guy. Defenders bounce off him. I love like Derrick Henry kind of archetype for him. He's not the exact same player, but the same type of implementation that you have with Derrick Henry that you would use with Amari and Hampton. That said, like he's got some really, really serious red flags. His vision, like honestly, is pretty lackluster. His pad level, he runs more upright than Rashad Penny. He doesn't really create much when things break down. He's not the kind of back who freelances or makes something out of nothing. He basically needs like the runway to be clear or the blocks to be set up where he can get 3 or 4 yards and then he's good to go. But as we talked about, for him, he might get drafted in the back half of the first round. But if it goes the way I think it might, we might be looking at like the beginning of round 2 is where Amari and Hampton's window is. And then we're right back with the same teams we were worried about for Ashton Genty.
Sure.
So I think he's great. Jeff and I have a Chris Carson comp for him. It's like the same runner, same exact player. There were warts to Chris Carson's game that never
7th round draft pick, Chris Carson.
Yeah. Chris Carson didn't have the pedigree that Hampton had coming out.
I see a lot of Marlon Mack, a lot of Chris Carson, all these late round draft picks.
Yeah, he's a good player and everything, but like there's other guys I like more for fantasy than Hampton.
Yeah.
And one of them, it's not even really particularly close.
Sure. I have worse Nick Chubb and better Joe Mixon as far as my my comps go. And that's, that's that range. A lot of so the player that you're describing should be going in the early to mid second. And that's where those guys win.
I think that would be fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would throw just an anecdote. Joe Mixon was one of the best pass catching and route running running backs to come out of college in the last 10 years, but they just like haven't done that with him in the NFL for some reason. But anyway.
Yeah, that was always an underutilized and frustrating part of his game because you could always see the shades of it. And I think it's forgotten that he had that ability coming out because of the lack of, especially when you've seen other players step into his role, like Gio Bernard or Samaje Perine or even Chase Brown last year. These guys who've just like stepped in and done it really well as if they're so much more better at it than he is, when I just never felt like that was the case.
Yeah. I don't know what that's all about, but his tape coming out of college, it was like 30% of the allure for Mixon was like, this guy catches everything and he run routes. Like that's rare at the time.
Anyway. Joe's preferring a little Trayon Henderson. Feels like a healthy Kenneth Walker.
There we go, Joe. There we go. That's my RB2. That's my RB2.
The problem I have
does everything
is that he's calling him something that doesn't exist.
He's
calling him a healthy Kenneth Walker, and I just don't think there's anywhere in science or written literature that exists. So I'm not sure if that can be the comp.
Well, I wouldn't fully sign up for that because Travion Henderson has been injured for half of his college career, so he's got injury concerns for sure.
Injury concerns he does have. Yeah.
Travion, a 30-second blurb on him. Best pass blocker in the class, so he's going to stay on the field. First of all, that's a huge boon for fantasy, especially as a rookie. One of the most explosive runners in the class, some of the best vision in the class, some of the best contact balance in the class, some of the best first and second moves in the class, also some of the best hands in the class. And also 12 months ago, he was the RB1. And then Quinshon Judkins came to town and they ran a dual back offense and people forgot. Travion Henderson is that dude. He's my RB2. Like, he's real good.
I like that.
For fantasy.
He's definitely somebody I've been seeing. He's been a big riser in dynasty drafts. He's been a big riser in best ball drafts, and he's been a big riser in fast drafts.
Rookie. It's all about rookie talk in fantasy football right now. So why not go use all that knowledge to do something other than a mock draft? Chris Jimino won $8,000 with just 2 teams last year, and each draft took 5 minutes. That's pretty good ROI. You can start doing rookie drafts for money today on Fast Draft. The Origins tournament is live. It is the place to go and monetize your knowledge of rookies and use your favorite player profiler host promo code for a $25 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
Let's go start drafting faster, ladies and gentlemen.
Love it.
The Fast Draft tournament, specifically Origins, Flex 4s, D-Ups, they're all filling up incredibly quick. So get in there, take my money. I want you to have it. I want you to get in there. And you know what? While you're at it, why don't you use a little promo code?
Seabass said that.
Well, if that guy at the table over there is Seabass.
Does Seabass, does that stand for Chuck's big ass?
Chuck's big ass. God, Ronnie, you're 3 for 3 on things I'm never going to forget from this podcast already. Chuck's big ass, $50 deposit match. You guys get over there, get in, and make it hot. Look, we even got some stuff in the chat. Jamie said we did our Fast Draft Flex 4 podcast last night.
Nice.
And our D-Up comes out tomorrow. We'll be sure to check that out. Check out all that good stuff. Jamie, let me know in the chat here how you've been feeling about any of these. We're always loving good feedback. Would love to know specifically how you're feeling about the D-Up. The more I get into the IDP world, the more I'm just fascinated by all the versatility in it. So appreciate that. Appreciate everybody. Now, Ronnie, tell us about your next guy.
Cool. So I'm going to rattle through 3 guys real quick because I want to make sure we got time to talk AI here to close out the show. But there's 3 dudes. One of them is my RB3 on the class. He's Mina Kimes' RB2. He's Kyle Yates' RB2. I think he's Matt Waldman's RB4. Kind of started to inch his way back into the top 5, which I expected.
Sure.
He's a running back who missed the college football playoffs and missed partial time the last 2 games of the season. And this isn't a knock on the fantasy industry, but whenever you talk about a consensus, you're going to get everyone. And most people are not actually doing genuine rookie tape scouting. They're paying attention to what they saw during the regular season.
Yeah.
The college football playoffs come around. And if you're not playing as a player, your draft stock, at least for the people that are trying to predict things, the floor.
Doesn't exist.
That is what happened. That's what happened to Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson, I have been getting flack from people for this, but I stand by it, and I will stand on business during the season when it happens. I have been calling Dylan Sampson Ashton Genty light for like 4 months now. And people are like, what the hell are you talking
It wouldn't be a Ronnie podcast for at least one Tennessee mention. We got to get the Tennessee guys.
Here's the thing. Like, I got a Vols hat on right now. There are 3 prospects from Tennessee over the last 12 years that I have told people to go draft. And we've gotten 2 of them in the last 2 years. So it's fun. It's a weird time. I don't want you to think this is Tennessee bias though. No. If you go watch his tape, if you go put on Ashton Genty's tape for 10 minutes, and then you put on Dylan Sampson's tape for 10 minutes, there really actually isn't that big of a gap in difference between what they're doing. Dylan Sampson has plenty of explosive plays. He just wasn't doing 5 or 6 explosive runs a game like Ashton Genty. And I'm not pooping on Ashton Genty, but Dylan Sampson, 1,500 yards rushing, broke Tennessee's rushing record, broke Tennessee's touchdown record, SEC Player of the Year. Didn't have the multiple 200-yard games that Ashton Genty have, but Dylan Sampson also didn't spend 80% of his schedule playing against guys that are going to work at Office Depot next year. And that is it just is what it is.
In the store at Office Depot or at corporate?
I think most of these guys are going to be loading the trucks in the back of Office Depot.
Your house Office Depot. Got it. All right.
But he, so if I just pulling up some notes here, 1,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, true workhorse at Tennessee. He was our entire offense. We watched us against Ohio State. Without him, we couldn't do a single thing. He is a legit 3-down back. He wasn't used as much on passing downs at Tennessee as you would like to see. But going back to Jalen Wright and just Josh Heupel in general. He doesn't really use his running backs that way. However, Dylan Sampson, when he was asked to go out, is very similar to Ashton Jeanty. Like anytime Ashton Jeanty was asked to go line up out wide, I think there was like a dozen total throughout his career.
Sure.
He did well, which is why people say he can go catch the ball. It's the same thing for Dylan Sampson. His contact balance is incredible. He pushes piles better than anyone in this class. He's surprisingly strong. And in the end, 6.4 yards per carry in the SEC. And people will be like, oh, Josh Heupel offense. And I just want to remind people the same thing I said last year about Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, two different expectations for them year one. But don't discount the offense. It's not the offense that they had in 2022. They've shifted away from that. It's not a gimmick offense for running backs. And so Dylan Sampson does literally, I don't know what the problem is with him. I think people watch his highlights, and the most high-level anecdote I can give on him is he had about 7 games this season where he was dealing with a pretty serious ankle injury. And if you happen to watch tape on any of those 7 games, he is like legitimately slower. It's wild. You go put on a healthy game with Dylan Sampson, he looks like he runs a 4.3 40. Put on the other games, he looks like he runs like a 4.6. And so I don't know. I think people are just misunderstanding him and don't have the right context for him. But the people I trust love him. Jeff DiMatteo has him as his RB2. Like I said, Mina Kimes, Kyle Yates, same thing. Waldman, he's up there too. He's really good.
He's in that weird range where you mentioned why he would be downplayed, especially for some of the health concerns, college football playoff, all that. 5'9", 200 is just a weird – people have trouble putting players of that build in specific boxes. And then I think on top of that as well, you just have these storylines that are just very uncommon as far as running backs concerned. You've got 2 running backs out of Ohio State that could go in the top 4. You've got, all the Jeanty talk just sucking all the air out of the room. And then also you've got so many people, because this class is so deep or perceived as so deep, you've just got a lot of people who I think are dying to plant their flag on a guy that's not being mentioned in that top 5 or 6. And I am surprised that Sampson isn't one of those guys because his tape is just absolutely phenomenal. But maybe he's ridiculous. Too many people, I think, are just finding themselves, oh, I'm going to take the RB10 in this class is my guy. The RB12 in this class is my guy. The RB15 in this class is my guy. It doesn't really match up with what you're seeing on the screen. I mean, he's so patient. He's so decisive. And he's so explosive. It's just I think he's gonna be impactful very early.
Yeah, he's got the ability to do that. I would say for all those people, like, why do you like Kyron Williams? If you're gonna discount Dylan Sampson,
they don't.
Is
the problem.
Weight,
they don't.
Well, they say that, but they would be happy to have him on their fantasy team.
Sure.
Dylan Sampson and Kyron Williams are actually very similar players.
Yeah. You're gonna people like Kyron Williams because they own him and he's on the Rams. I don't think I don't think it extends farther than that. So that's pretty fun. I love that. I love that pick. I mean, the Tennessee running backs, they find a way to pop off of the screen. And that doesn't always mean it's going to translate, but they're doing better at it than a lot of these other teams. So love that. Yeah. Tell me about another one.
Sure. So let's go to Jack Besh.
Oh yeah.
He's been I do this weird exercise every year, and I'm late on it this year because this class is so weird. Like, I look at this rookie class, I hear everyone talk about how elite it is and how deep it is. And I'm like, this is whatever. It's like 4 or 5 like really good prospects, and then there's like 20 B level prospects. And like, what's different about this class is typically you'll get like 4 or 5 A guys, 6 to 10 B guys, and then you hit the C and D range, and it's like dart throws.
There's a lot of green chips in this draft.
Yeah. There's a deep well of guys that might not pan out, but also look like they very well could if they get opportunity.
Yeah.
Jack Besh at wide receiver for me, like, if you just ignore his 40 time, there's really nothing to like or not like about the guy. He catches the ball well, super physical. He's a chain mover. He's got incredible possession ability to go up and get the ball, moves his body well for the point of attack. Like, every single bit of Jack Besh, if you slapped a 4.35 40 on him, he'd be the wide receiver 1 in this class. But he doesn't have that. He runs like he's slow for sure. But that said, I think he might actually be the most pro-ready wide receiver in this class. He just doesn't have the athletic upside that people want, but you don't need that. I keep on going back to Juwan Jennings. And Jack Bech to me is like the same player as Juwan Jennings, but he's not a converted quarterback, and he's actually pro ready coming out of college, whereas Juwan needed like another 2 or 3 years to develop. Same sort of thing. I don't think he's going to ever be a wide receiver one, but if he goes to the right situation where they have an alpha, like if he went to the Cowboys, I think Jack Bech, by the end of the season, people are like, oh my goodness, we got to treat him as a wide receiver 2-3 in Dynasty because he's just so good at doing exactly what the coach asks him to do, being at the exact spot the quarterback expects him to be, and being able to reel in the targets he gets. He's just not going to burn you for an 80-yard touchdown.
No,
Whatever.
I get a lot of Keenan Allen for him. In
Sure,
particular,
I love that.
Keenan Allen has been one of the best, if probably not the best, wide receiver of the last decade.
He's slow.
Of being just an absolute very good receiver without having the athletic traits. Just he uses his athleticism or what little he may have compared to the other guys at the position to just always kind of like Travis Kelce himself into the right part of the field and find the soft spots in the zone. And he was doing that from a very early age. And he just kind of came out of the pros like that, very quarterback friendly. And guys like that, man, they figure out early what their role is, and they kind of just bang it out for a long time. So I love this. Nobody can do anything but compare him to Cooper Kupp and Alec Pierce. And like Cooper Kupp and Alec Pierce, how do you get –
I don't get the Alec Pierce comparison.
There's one thing about those guys that they have in common, and it's the same thing that you and I have in common. It's just fun, just funny stuff always.
It's a little vanilla flavor.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, you got teed up by the chat here, and I love this one. Joe is on the money tonight. Joe wants to know, show us some Mason Taylor love. So
Joe, let's go, baby. Literally next on my list. So Mason Taylor might be my tight end one in this class if Tyler Warren didn't exist. I shouldn't say might be. He would be my tight end. He's actually really good. He'd be the tight end in a lot of the years over the last decade. It's been up and down for us with tight end groups.
Sure.
This year, the strongest class in my opinion, or excuse my language, or excuse my whatever. The strongest position group in this class for me is the tight end position. There are like 6 guys that I think are NFL starters and also could be relevant for fantasy. But Mason Taylor, man, like I've seen people talk about him. I don't think they're talking about him nearly enough. There's a lot of Harold Fannin chatter. There's a lot of Colston Loveland chatter. There's a lot of Tyler Warren chatter. And I'm just like, Mason Taylor, like, most productive tight end in LSU history. He got 100 catches and 1,300 yards. He's only 21 years old. He's pro ready. He blocks well. He's got elite hands. He runs crisp routes. He's big. He's got a natural feel for spacing, like we talked about with Travis Kelce. Like he isn't going to go out there and do what like Tyler Warren could do, which is like juke a safety and then stiff arm the guy behind him. But he can get 80% of the way there, and he's a better player than I will argue this until the day I die. He's a better receiving like tight end and overall tight end than Tyler Warren outside of the physicality and just in general, like I would call like Tyler Warren has the Gronk factor to him. And it's just I can't argue against that. But
sure,
if you took that away from Tyler and put him against Mason Taylor, like I'd be like, I don't know, who cares? They're both absolutely incredible. Mason Taylor will be a factor for fantasy.
I think he could have a very Tyler Eifert-esque role in the NFL. I like just that. Watch him. Yeah, I just watch him play, and I think the problem we have as fantasy fans, NFL fans, it's like we keep trying to push the envelope on what a tight end can be or should be. Brock Bowers has done a great job of that. We tried to do it with Kyle Pitts, Gronk. We just came out of Gronk and Kelce, and we kind of forget that like there's really nothing wrong with being like the 5th best tight end in the league and having a long career and being like Jason Witten, who was maybe number 1 for a year or 2, but was never lower than like 5 or 6 maybe until he got older. And I think once you get into – I think you're going to see a lot of those guys in this class. The problem is, like you mentioned, the Harold Fannin, you've got like Arroyo, like there's these guys that we have that have like a sliver of hope of having like a Darren Waller season when I kind of just want, somebody who's going to give me 10 touchdowns on maybe 70 catches, almost like the Mike Evans season for tight ends. Like I'm perfectly okay with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mason Taylor, like could use a little bit of polish on his strength, physicality, but like, to touch on what you just said, the mistake people kept making, and me included, like with Kyle Pitts, we saw he can catch the ball, he can kind of run routes, and he's fast, and just assume that he could play the big slot role for a team. To play big slot and do it effectively as a tight end, you actually have to be really good at route running. You have to
very good at route running.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to out athleticism the nickel cornerback that is up against you. You can overpower them for short gains.
Yeah.
But we keep getting like Dalton Kincaid. It's the same problem. He is not he was my guy as a rookie coming in. I was like, Dalton Kincaid to the moon. I don't know about those guys because they get pulled off the field because they can't block. And then when they go in, they're actually an undermatch for the role that they're playing in the offense, unless it's like a 10-yard play or within 10 yards. So I don't know. Brock Bowers is the only tight end I have seen in the last decade where I'm like, okay, cool. You could go play slot wide receiver if he needs to and actually do it.
People are like, oh, they put these guys in the they don't just put these guys in the slot because they don't know what to do with them or because they just don't have like they're afraid of CB1s. Like these guys, you know, they know what. It's just frustrating to watch the discourse over it. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Love what he could be. Would love to see him go to a team like Cincinnati. I think would be a lot of fun. Or even, you know, I know Denver signed Evan Ingram, but I think he would be a lot of fun as kind of like an Evan Ingram spell, or, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. Just good fun stuff like that. Hopefully Pete would love that. Pete's in the house. Good to see you, buddy.
What up, Pete?
Resident Brock. So love that. 5 rookies, 5 great takes. Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about premium Wednesday night content as we get ready for the draft here. So I'm going to kick us to, we're going to be getting a little bit of AI insight from you, Ronnie, right after a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, what if I told you there was a dynasty app where you could get player lifetime values, evaluate trades, including draft picks out to 2028, compare the advanced metrics of 2 players, look up the sentiment, buy, sell, hold on players? Well, there is a mobile app that has all of that and more called the Dynasty Dominator, and it's $5 in the App Store on Google Play. This is my gift to you, the most affordable Dynasty League domination app available today. And if you already have it, the 2025 class is ready to download. Let's go!
2025 class is ready to download. Take all the information Ronnie just gave it to you. Ignore everything I said. Get over there and get it done.
Hold on. Before we go, I have something for Jamie. Ooh, this showing up?
It's like the invisible man right here.
Yeah. All right. So, Jamie, I see you mentioning Biggs, who is a good friend of mine. I love Biggs to death. I just want you to know, in that league, you can send a message to Biggs and remind him that I dominated him in the Fantasy Football Expo poker tournament and won the bracelet in this autographed Justin Jefferson jersey.
Doesn't winning feel good? Because you can always reference it and you can always dunk on somebody with it, and it never goes away, ever.
Winning turns you into a perpetual spice rub, and you just rub it into everything. Everything's barbecue at that point.
Perpetual spice rub. I like that. That'd be a good team name too. That one's got flavor. Literally has flavor to it. I'm all about that. All right, let's give one more shout out to Brian here. Brian, how you doing, bud? Good to have you.
What up, Brian?
And Jamie said he'll bring it up next live chat. All right, now Ronnie, the last time we had our groundbreaking podcast, truly watershed moment in podcasting history. We talked a lot about AI, and we talked about, you know, some of the highlights were about how you can use it to gather information, how other people can use it in the industry as far as implementing it into their job, into their work. So you are the resident AI expert. You have a lot of familiarity, probably more so than just about anybody in the fantasy football space. So I want to ask you, what is the current state of AI in regards to fantasy football, everything that we touch on?
Sure. So last year we talked a little bit about like accepting AI, like using it just to help out with certain aspects of what you do, and like inserting it lightly into your workflows. That was last year. What's interesting is I actually wouldn't recommend anything different again. What has happened with artificial intelligence over the last year is too much to cover in like a quick 10-minute blurb. But the ability to take artificial intelligence insert it into your workflows, and then accelerate and expand on your capabilities hasn't really changed that much. It's just gotten easier. It's still like the best method is still to go learn how to work with RStudio, use NFL stat databases, feed those databases into an AI tool like a ChatGPT, run a script, have the script handle the data analysis. But what has changed is the capability of these tools to perform without error. Last year when we met, the average LLM had like an 84% accuracy rating. Right now, the top of the line stuff has 98%. They're actually more accurate than human beings now. And I don't think people have like really absorbed that because they don't know. And I keep hearing things like for example, it's not what Andrew Cooper was doing, but he made a joke about AI can't get the show title right. That wasn't AI, Andrew. That was me.
Yeah, that's garbage in, garbage out. Yeah.
And if I asked artificial intelligence to go figure out what show with Chuck Bass I was doing, it would have told me it was another fantasy show. And so there are, to give a few shout outs, Sports Mind is still kicking. Probably the best overall interface for fantasy advice in the AI space right now. Shout out to Connor Ludlow, good friend of mine. Rotobot, who I talked about with a lot of people at the expo, helped them network and so forth, was involved just kind of brainstorming and gestating with them while they were building over the last 2 years. Their stuff's really cool. They actually have pivoted a little bit. And now if you go to Rotobot and you want like data and analysis based on data streams and everything you need from that area, Rotobot is now like a fully interactive chat interface that allows you to pull all of that about the NFL. And so it's really cool. It's kind of taking like the Pro Football Focus and then turning it into a usable, easy to use, interactive, generative tool. There's still like Yak Football, Pine Sports. There's a couple big companies that are working on AI projects that I cannot mention here. One of the bigger ones, though, that I don't know if I'm supposed to mention it, but I'm going to do it because it's been out for a minute. Fantasy Pros has an AI tool. I don't think anyone knows this because they haven't posted about it. They haven't told anyone about it. But it's called, I think it's the Fantasy Coach or Coach AI. I played with it last season when it was in beta. Pretty fantastic. And because Fantasy Pros already has all of the tool and league and profile integration, I've always looked at them as like, well, in the end, kind of like Google. In the end, Google's probably going to win the AI race because they already have all the data. Fantasy Pros for me, if all the big companies decided to go pursue AI full force this year, I think Fantasy Pros would probably pull.
So how do you envision yourself incorporating a maybe not fully formed version of this, because I don't know if it can ever be fully formed, but how you envision incorporating something like the Fantasy Pros AI Coach into your, let's just say, day-to-day fantasy homework?
There is, I think the easiest way to apply it right now is as a time saver. Like typically if you're like for this show, if I wanted to go and watch film on these players and accumulate data and spend 3 hours and build a blurb on Tyler Warren, I could. Right now, though, I can get the same effect, learn just as much, and do it in about an hour instead of 3 hours by going in and having AI, if I prompt it correctly, and then use the right tools, have it scrape the web, look through different articles, look through feedback from people that I give it that I actually trust, and then develop that information for me so I don't have to do it manually. And that way, instead of like, if you're a fantasy football player and you've thought about ever wanting to do like a draft guide or like do your own rookie analysis, you now like you shouldn't wonder if you can do that because it's not a time sink anymore. At this point, you can accelerate a lot of the busy work and really just get down to learning and understanding what you need to about these players by working with AI tools.
How much? I've got another one for you here.
Go ahead.
How easy is it for you? Well, probably easier for you. How much are you seeing AI used across the board, whether it's articles or the way that people are talking about specific points? Are you able to, as having a head start or not a head start? Yeah. Okay. You got it.
Yeah. I think about 30% of the industry right now is doing that. And it's not, I'm not talking like full, like they're just like ChatGPT, write this article for me. Like, I can tell when people do that. It is very obvious. But what the difference between last year when I was on your show and now is last year there was still a lot of mystique around AI, and our industry had been pretty slow. Like collectively, we hadn't started to really actually dive in. We have started to dive in collectively. People are working on it. People are using it now for like editing articles instead of going through the long process of editing, fine-tuning grammar, so on and so forth. Just kind of like everything you used to use Grammarly for, now people are using AI for. But I think about a third of the industry is pretty plugged in at this point and using AI in some different flavor for each person to like accelerate and amplify their workflows.
Sure.
Correct.
No, that does, because this conversation I've had with plenty of people about how much written content now, percentage wise versus the actual amount that's being used AI is a lot. The percentage wise isn't as much when you think about how much content is being put out daily. But you're right, that number of 30%. So are there indicators for you, not to out people, because that's not really what I'm trying to do, although I do like to get some dunks in every now and then. Is there like a big indicator to you immediately? You're like, oh, this was written by AI.
Yeah, I don't know how to convey this to some of it's intuitive. Like I could just read a block of text and notice the structure is the same as what you would get out of an AI tool like that.
Sure.
And part of what's tricky about our industry is most fantasy content is actually pretty stale. It's very scholastic. Player did X, Y, and Z. Here's the numbers. Here's what they'll do. Next player.
Yeah. And while you guys are here, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. We really appreciate all the viewerships out there. It means a lot to us.
One of the big tells right now is the M dash, not the mini. Like you have your regular dash, and then a little bit longer is like the medium dash, and then the full length dash is the M dash. And if you see something and there are multiple M dashes in them, and they're not, I don't know how to describe this. I can't put it in the chat.
No, this is the industry. Yep.
Here's how you can tell very likely that it was either used by AI, was aided in writing the article, or it was totally written by AI. If it has an M dash in the first paragraph and the M dash is not separated by a space. So like if my head's the dash, word connected.
All right. That's the indicator.
Most likely AI. Yes. If it is an M dash and there's spaces in between each side of the M dash, it's probably a human. There's also like words like demystify and mystique, and so on and so forth.
Mystique,
like the one used as regular.
Mystique has been I asked AI earlier if Jerry Jones could have potentially been responsible for contributing to 9/11, and it used mystique in the first like 4 sentences of its response to me. So I'm getting some buzzwords up there. I like that. This is good feedback, good takeaway.
Hey, throw that comment by Jamie up there. I write my article.
Yeah.
Yes, Jamie. Yes, that is perfectly acceptable way to use it. Think about it this way: if you send
that's what an editor does, and an editor will
exactly.
Tell you
if you send it to an editor, and they were like, "This whole paragraph's messed up," they're going to rework the whole paragraph for you.
Yeah. Same
thing with AI. There's nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah. And this is basically, that's what time.
That's 2 M dashes on each side. I hate the M dash thing, man. I used to be a music journalist. I've written hundreds of articles over the years. And
we can tell with that opening credits. I mean, it makes sense.
But anyway, that would be the easiest way is to do that. And then also if somebody has in there, like this still happens, but they're like, sure, here's an article on X, Y, and Z. Let me know if you want any revisions. And then you read they just forgot to delete the
yeah. So,
I've seen that a few times on actual
so people who really do need an editor, people who are screwing up, who aren't crossing their I's, or crossing their T's, dotting their I's, all that stuff. Well, that's funny. That's interesting. So everyone, be on the lookout. And if you see examples like this, send them to me. I would love a compilation. We'll have some fun with it. So it is April 9th. Start of the season's in September. Do you see any advancements between now and then that would push the pace a little bit more on AI, or do you think we're set for maybe another year, 18 months, something like that?
Yeah. Relative to our industry, I think we're going to have a couple tools that come out in the next 2 months. 1 or 2 I know for sure we're going to have come out that I think would have an impact if everyone pays attention and embraces them. there's a lot of resistance to AI right now. And I think one of the adoption issues for it is that like entry level using ChatGPT to help you edit an article or make an image or whatever. And everyone's doing that, right? That's not like, there's no longer novelty in that.
Yeah.
But building tools with AI and expanding and doing things you could have never done before, that's starting to happen. There's a couple really cool projects that are dropping over the next couple months. Going back to Gridiron Ratings, actually, when you guys see what Jeff has worked on for the last 2 years, you're going to shit your pants. It's incredible. There's a couple other people where I would say the same thing. I can't mention who they are right now. But in general for AI, I don't think so.
Yeah.
The biggest change that we're going to see right now, this is the year of agents, and basically like allowing an AI then to connect into actual systems and operate those systems for you on your behalf. That is AI agency. That started. I used an AI agent from China that's the current world leader in AI agent performance. I got beta access. It was one of the first 5,000 people in the whole world to use it. I got really lucky.
Awesome.
Sat there, used it. It went through, and actually I was watching it like take over my browser. And it was going through, and I asked it to do a full synopsis on the way neuroscience is affecting architecture. And it went through, I think it was 78 articles, 12 different research papers, a couple scholastic journals. And I watched it go through all of them. And then it spit out a 7,500 word executive summary research paper. Sent it to the guy that asked me for it, who was paid for a little over $400,000 over the last decade for research firms to do work for him. And he was so impressed by it that he went and not only did he like say, thank you, this is exactly what I needed. He went and used the paper as a reference point for a speech he gave in a couple like billionaire fundraisers.
Yeah.
I think that is
that's fantastic. Like that makes me happy. You know, some people that may not enjoy that puts a genuine smile on my face.
It's awesome. I mean, everyone's so much more empowered to do things they couldn't do right now. Like that, I could never have done that research paper without this tool.
Is there ever any concern about, and this is just coming to me now, so this could be a stupid question, and I kind of hope it is a stupid question, about AI's ability to access information behind paywalls?
Yes. I will never tell people how to do that, but
yes.
Dude, if your stuff's behind a paywall, I can access it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a paywall, and they're not real anymore. But you have to really know what you're doing too.
Okay, well, if you're in the chat, let's get together. Chat, please send us, some paywalls you would like to have access to without fronting the money up. We will deliver on our promises.
It's one of the negative sides of AI. There's a lot of IP and like. I don't think it's a bad thing, but the only way for me to describe it is people are like, "Huh, this is mine." And if you want it, you have to pay me. And I'm like, that's normal. That's capitalism. But AI is building bridges over moats. And one of those is paywalls.
Damn, that is, you know what? That's a fantastic takeaway. That's amazing, Ronnie. That's just absolute incredible insight. Love not just the stuff you're spitting out, but you put it out with such enthusiasm and also kind of a level of realism that, I hope people are taking away from this. So thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are bumping up against 53 minutes here. So, Ronnie, I want to give you the floor here to plug anything you have coming up, where the people can find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah. All right. First thing, I got tabbed to host the Scott Fishbowl Atlanta live draft. This is actually, I haven't announced this anywhere. So this is my first time telling people outside of the fantasy character.
My first time hearing of this.
We might have been. Good news for you, Chuck. It's not going to be during the window where you're preoccupied. So I would love for you to come down to Atlanta for it. But that's going to be awesome. You guys, if you're in the Atlanta area or can travel down, we're going to do a lot of cool stuff. We might be working with the Georgia Aquarium and the College Football Hall of Fame and a few other places for some pretty cool stuff. So that's really exciting. Scott Fishbowl is around the corner. If you have not signed up, do it. Right now for me personally, I'm currently building a video game actually, which is really fun. I don't want to give too much away about it, but I can tell you the general concept because I'm not worried about someone else doing this. Do you know, Chuck, in sports, the typical thing that happens with animals on the field, like where it's like a squirrel or a cat that runs onto the baseball field, or we had the Giants Cowboys game a few years ago where the black cat
Sure.
ran around.
Yeah.
So I'm building a game where you play as a cat that lives in an alley outside of a stadium, and the object of the game, or the objective, is to go navigate through the stadium past security and all the people, get the ball, and bring it back to your little cat
Oh,
house.
I love it.
I have no idea when I'm going to be done with that. I want it to be done before the NFL season. Who knows? It might be in 2 weeks from now. It might be 6 months. So that's one thing I'm working on. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say that's fantastic. We'll have to have you back on once that bad boy is running.
Yes, please do. I think it should be a hit. It's something I think every sports fan can kind of like synchronize with a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm working with Gridiron Ratings, which again been there for 5 years. The draft guide, player profile, research, the whole 9 yards that Jeff is about to drop, I think is going to be as comprehensive as anything else you've seen out there. Don't want to take away from anyone else's work. I want you just to add it to the pile of stuff you're absorbing. I also am working on a couple tools to help the fantasy industry out. I'm building an AI fantasy football tutor to help gamify learning fantasy football, getting better with rankings, so on and so forth. A bunch of other projects there. And then the last shout out I would give is to this guy, Chuck Bass. It's pretty cool. He has a couple podcasts that are pretty decent. And he was the first person to ask me to come on to do a show about AI in the fantasy football space last year. If you're watching and you haven't asked me to come on your show to talk about AI yet, do it. Let's do it. Like I'm here. I will get on. We'll talk about whatever you want to. This show wasn't AI focused. It was like 20-30% AI, 70% rookies, which is how it should be.
Well, you're a versatile man, and I like to expose all aspects of you to the general public. I think you're a tremendous voice, tremendous guest, and I like to. You need to be out there more.
Yeah. Last thing, 30 seconds or less. If you want to go get into AI right now, I will give you the playbook. Number one, go create a Google Gemini account. They're free, and they have the most access to the most state-of-the-art tools in the world right now. Google Gemini is better than ChatGPT in its current form, and it's free. So if you want to go explore, go do that. Secondly, go make a ChatGPT account. Go get a Claude account. And then as you push forward, I still would stand by Midjourney as the most like artistic AI image generator. They just launched V7, but the show at the beginning, or the song at the beginning, I made with a tool called Udio. It took me about 4.5 hours. You don't need to spend that much time on a song. You can do a song in 5 minutes.
It's a great pitch. It took me 4 hours, but you don't need to spend 4 hours.
No, I wanted it to sound like it could play on the radio, and I think I achieved it. But you can go make whatever you want. I make them with kids on the playground every day at school. We do them in 3 minutes or less every time. So get Google Gemini, go get ChatGPT, get Claude, and live between those 3 AI tools, and you will have 95% of the state of the art at your fingertips. And then as you get further along, DM me. I will tell you what to go get and what to explore, and you'll be good to go.
You guys having you said a tutor, a guide. You have a cheat code here in Ronnie Evans is what I'm going to call him. So make sure you're using him at your disposal. You want to be ahead of the game on all this stuff. You don't want to still be drafted Mahomes in the second round of a redraft league in 2025. That's the metaphor we're going to go with here. Join us in the future. Join us as we enter into a new era. So Ronnie, I want to thank you again here. You're the man. I'm going to get us out of here on that lovely note one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for you. This is for Ronnie. This is for everybody out there. Cheers.
Starring